All right. So I will jump in I have series of questions for both of you, and we've really brainstormed to figure out what will be really interesting for our audiences today. So Bhoomika, I come to you as a psychologist, and you've been working in the space. So what are the mental health challenges do you think employees and employers may be dealing with? And what do you think companies can do?
Right. So I think we can look at this into two sections here. The first is from the employee standpoint. So when naturally human beings like to solve problems, they like to be resilient, right? But when such an unprecedented event came into being, which is the pandemic, there was a lot of uncertainty, and with uncertainty comes a lot of anxiety, right? Because we don't have control over a lot of things, and human beings like to have control. They like to solve problems. They like to know what am I going to do next. So because of this uncertainty and unprecedented times, there was a lot of anxiety that came in, right? And people started going through all sorts of problems, ranging from financial to physical to emotional, to as a family they are conflicted, right? And financial issues. But above and beyond all of this, professional lives took a hit, unable to concentrate at work, unable to focus, right? And what is the equation do I have now? I'm a working professional. I have to go to work, and all of my things happen at work, in the physical presence of my work. I have equipment that is laid out for me. I have a process that I follow. I interact with a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, right? So I have a system that I've been following for many, many years, and that has disrupted with the pandemic, with the onset of pandemic, right? And that is where people are struggling to cope, I feel, right? That is the employee standpoint, right? As you can talk a lot of it, in terms of implications, in terms of isolation, no social contact, right? Uncertainty in terms of safety, right? So all of these, but employers are also facing similar challenges, right? So nowadays when we start listening to this whole term that workplaces are opening up, we're following a hybrid model, people are coming back to work. Now the employers are facing a lot of challenges. I think the first and foremost challenge that they're facing is with compliance, right? So they have to comply with a lot of guidelines set by state, guidelines set internally, right? Medical guidelines, safety protocols, right? COVID guidelines. So there are a lot of compliance that the companies are facing these days, and monitoring these guidelines is another big challenge, is what I would look at. And for companies, it's not only in these HR or policy related activities, it's also to ensure that their employees are safe, right? So safe in medical terms, right? In terms of COVID, right? So I think these are some of the challenges that people are constantly struggling. And when we start looking at where organizations are opening up and they're bringing back their employees, we really have to come up with new systems in place, and that is where we have to come together, right? It has to become an interdisciplinary format where you bring in people like HRs together, psychologists, right? You bring in lawyers or policymakers, and you together come and brainstorm and see what will work best, right? Because we have a new problem to deal with, and for that we need newer solutions, right? So I would like to begin this discussion with these implications that I have observed and spoken to a lot of employees.
Okay, awesome.
Please feel free to add, Gauri, or anyone, right? Yeah.
Sure, very clearly it is going to be a big challenge. And Gauri, what do you think it is the right time for employees to return after 2 years? This is like 2 years of isolation, as Bhoomika mentioned. Do you think now is the right time for them to return?
Thanks, Smita, for asking this. And thanks, Bhoomika, for bringing out both aspects, because mostly we talk about either employee or employer, but you have brought out the holistic perspective. So yes, Smita, time is right or not. It depends on which industry you are in, what is happening with your organization, what sort of person are you, because it's very, very customized today, and it's very, very specific to a particular person, to a particular organization. Now, with various surveys, various understanding discussions, and if we look within, which is the most important key for this whole scenario. We have understood that hybrid is the key, because there are challenges at home, there are plus points also, but you need to be in office, you need to sometimes connect with your people also. That is also a very important thing, because remember, Smita, when you were in our office, how it was different from now. We are connecting over Zoom, a small window, and we are connecting. So that touch, that feel is totally different. So yes, it is now definitely accepted that we have to be back to work. But this stage or any other stage, it depends on what sort of situation you are in, is what I would say.
Absolutely, I agree with you. It is, I mean, meeting somebody in person is such a different experience, you know. I think we would have almost cried after seeing each other after so many years, right? Yeah. However, we see each other on the through technology, but when you come face to face, it's a very different feeling, right? And I don't think there is any defined right time. People are still trying to understand when is the right time. So,
absolutely, yes. Because situation is different. Say, it's like I remember when I went back to office after 1.5 years, and it was like, okay, I'm going to meet them after so long. I had that feeling of happiness, but at the same time, there was anxiety. I had not spoken to them, met them in person for so long, and here I am going to meet with them. And at the same time, there was some awkwardness that both sides were feeling. So that is there. Then the challenges at home have also not got over as yet. Lot many states are yet to open schools. If schools have opened, buses are not working. We are all facing this challenge. So who's going to take care of child? Or if there is a responsibility to take care of elders at home, we don't have solutions as yet, because lot many things are still in process. So I think organizations and leaders need to give a lot of time for people to adjust. As we say, change is the name of the game, but change is not easy. So when we were moving to work from home, and we did it very early, it was first week of March when we went to work from home, because we were hearing it from Europe, where our HO is. And that time also many people said, why are you doing it? We work best at office. Though we had this policy for quite some time, but still people were not availing it. And that was like a holiday when you are taking work from home. So people were not happy going to operate from home at that point of time. And now when we are inviting them back, problem has to happen, because that resistance, that third law of Newton, that it is in motion or it is stopped, and unless there is an external push, it would not happen. So yes.
so awesome. That's a great thought you also got. How work from home is now viewed so differently. Earlier, as you rightly said, was considered as a holiday. If somebody wants an extra holiday, they would say, we are working from home, right? But yeah, the entire thought process has changed. So coming back to Bhoomika, many people are struggling with the thought of getting back to work, right?
Yes.
From the safe environment of their houses now enters the anxiety. Now, being a psychologist, what do you think about that?
Right. So I think, see, when we look at people's psyche, what happens here is they are coming out of a pandemic, you know. So pandemic itself comes with a lot of heavy weightage, right? Like once the moment the pandemic struck us, the onset, we were all very scared. We didn't know what would happen, and there were many waves that came along with it, right? And the pathogen itself is not just about illness. It has taken many lives, right? It has. And that fear is constantly attached to this, right? So we might feel that, okay, maybe we have achieved something. The moment the numbers reduce, we start feeling a little more free in terms of our mind space. But at the end of the day, people are still scared. So this results in something called as anticipatory anxiety. So we anticipate this anxiety with these kind of negative news that comes in. And we also have associated trauma to previous history of events. when it comes to second wave or first wave, we have seen, many people have lost their loved ones, people have fallen sick, people have lost their jobs. So these are life changing and life altering, situations that people have dealt with. And that is something we have associated. It's very difficult for one to forget.
I think some problem with my phone headset. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sorry, somebody speaking. Yeah, I think they're on mute. Yeah. So yes, I think because of these problems, right, it's very difficult for people to, accept working in the workplace the way it comes, right? So they have a lot of anticipatory anxiety. When I say anticipatory, that means that they're not able to see what is going to happen. Because of that, they feel that they might get anxious about certain things. They might not be able to handle certain things, right? That is the first thing, right? And now when people are coming back to work, as we already established that people have already developed a sense of new normal. So new normal for them is working from home in the comfort of their space. Many people can associate with this, right? They're also taking care of their children, because children are still working, studying from home, right? They have a sense of balance that they have created. Now to come out of it is also going to cause them a lot of behavioral shift, and that comes with anxiety again, right? So I think people have to deal with a lot of change going forward, right? And sometimes we also see that, okay, now everything opens up, we go back to office, we start working from there, and suddenly there is a new variant that comes in and everything can get closed again. So this back and forth behavioral shift that they have to go through is a lot, right? And also it disrupts their system. Right? At workplace, you have a system, you have everything that is there. But when you have to, again, work from home, you have to create those systems at work, at your home. So I think these are some of the problems people face when it comes to changing and dealing with what is going to happen next, which is hybrid mode, right? So anxiety and anxious behavior is there. But how can we come out of it? I think that is going to be the next part of discussion, right? Yeah.
I'm going to extend that question, Bhoomika. I want to understand that how would a person know that he, she, they are anxious? I mean, is there some trigger point? Like, you can take a thermometer and measure that, okay, you're having a fever. Like that, for anxiety, is there a way that you can measure saying, or you can detect saying, yes, you have an anxiety issue and you need to, because that's the issue. I'll give you my personal experience. Okay, I was feeling heavy-headed. For a few days I didn't know what is happening. I checked my blood pressure; it was on the higher side. I go to a doctor. He's saying you're simply anxious, so you should be on anxiety pill. I was like, how blood pressure is connected to anxiety? I couldn't figure out. A person like me, who I thought meditates, tries to exercise, is quite calm all the time, is also suffering from anxiety. So is there any trigger point? Is there any way of detecting, yes, you need to go and see somebody for this?
Yes. Thank you so much, Smita, for this question. I'll try and explain to the best of my ability. So first and foremost, anxiety manifests in your physiological or your physicality, right? So whenever there is something that you are anticipating, for example, you have a deadline that is coming up, or there is a sudden change in the system that you have developed, or there is something that is coming your way and you're not quite ready for it, right? So that is when you start feeling anxiety or anxious feeling. So when you start feeling anxious, it manifests in your body, right? So, it could be heaviness in your chest, palpitations, like how Smita said, blood pressure. There's a chance of, people also getting gastrointestinal problems, right? Or it can also manifest in your behavior, right? Unable to speak, unable to formulate sentences, right? Or unable to make eye contact with people, or developing blurry vision. So it manifests in your body. So when you feel that something is changing from what you feel is normal. For me, normal is, suppose when I'm with my friends, suppose I'm in a very free space in my life, I'm having a good time with my friends, I'm having a good time with my family, that is normal. So try to observe your body at that time, try to understand your breathing patterns, try to understand how you're communicating with people. Are you raising your voice? Are you showing jitteriness, right? So if you're not, that is your normal body, your mood and emotions, you're able to control it. But when you start feeling anxious, you start seeing a change in your body, in your breathing patterns, heaviness, chest pain, right? For some people it also is associated to other comorbidities. For example, if people already have sugar levels or sugar problems, or they have hyperactivity, hyper behaviors, right? For them also it manifests in a different level. So try to observe if it is manifesting in your body, and because of that it also manifests in your behavior and actions. If you start seeing yourself screaming all of a sudden, right? If you have a very bad headache, right? Or if you are ignoring certain things, or if you're flight, fight or fight, right? Or freeze. So if you're doing these kind of responses, that suggest that maybe there is something more to this, maybe you're anxious for some reason, right? So I think I was able to answer that question.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that, because this has always been a question that maybe I'm suffering from blood pressure but may not be anxious. Maybe I'm just having a heavy head. I did not sleep well, but anxiety. No, I'm quite cool. Anxiety doesn't
Right.
touch me, right?
Yes, so I just want to give a definition to this. So these are called psychosomatic problems, where it manifests in your body, it manifests in your physiological self, right? So that is what health also defines. So often people feel that if I have a headache, it's just related to my health. No, it is also related to your social self and your emotional self, and your interactions with your immediate people around you, right? So they're all interlinked in some way or the other. If you look at the definition of health, it is not just the absence of a disease or anything like that, but it's a culmination of your emotional, physiological, social, professional life put together, right? So please don't dismiss such kind of feelings. Whenever you feel like something is not right, sit down, take a step back, close whatever you're doing, and try to observe these changes in your body.
All right. Thank you, Bhoomika. Definitely worth paying attention to how you feel, what you feel. Do you jump up from the bed every day in the morning, or do you feel lethargic? So I think these are some things we should be observing. So Gauri, I have next question. As an HR head of an organization, okay, how do you think we as employers can meet employees' growing mental and emotional health needs? Do you have any suggestions on those lines?
Yes, Smita, that's a very important topic, and that is the overall essence of bringing people back, and how it is to be done, and all the policies around it. But Bhumika, let me thank you for sharing the symptoms. I'm sure it would be useful for the viewers. It does happen, like Smita said, that she is doing meditation and she's exercising, and still it happens, and then we think it must be something different. It's not something related to stress or anxiety, but yes, it does happen, and I have experienced it also. In my role, I have to do both hire and fire. So when I did it for the first time, there were experiences which were not acceptable to me, my mind, and I had not many such symptoms that you mentioned just now. So yes, it is for everyone. Coming back to your question, Smita, yes, that is one thing which we are working on, and as HR fraternity and leaders as well. I think there are 3 S that we can define people's situation in. The first S would be pertaining to safety. So health and safety, like we discussed already, we are still thinking, we do not know what's happening with the number of waves. Is it already over, or there is another wave? What's in store? Nobody knows. So health and safety is one concern. And like Smita, we were discussing before this session, that there are people who have gone totally free of all the worries, and they are just roaming even without mask, though the policy asks for it. But there are people on the other side who are extremely skeptical. Now, people who lost a loved one or who faced a very challenging situation during COVID, the first wave, second wave, they are finding it difficult to come out, and it's natural also. So here it's very, very important that whom are we interacting with. I would say gone are the days where we were looking at uniform policies, because situation is different for everyone, and this emotional and mental challenges also may not be uniform for everyone. But if we have to look it around, I think the leader is the one who understands the best. And again, I would bring in 5 H's here through which people can understand and can bring about an environment where everybody is happy working. So first would be holistic wellness, and Bhumika touched upon it already. This would not only be restricted to 2 3 parameters that we were looking at, the social, the emotional, the physical we have been talking about. It would also be the financial piece of it, the spiritual piece of it, and that's where a lot many programs around meditation and the rest of it are being offered. And leaders play a very important role here by sharing the vision, by sharing the purpose of the organization. Because why do we get up every morning is defined by the purpose. The purpose may be to pay for a home loan, or the purpose may be to contribute towards country's growth, or anything else. You are supporting women, somebody else is doing something else. So it's like, what is the purpose? So all 8 dimensions of wellness, that is holistic wellness, and this would totally cover what we are talking about. And here the science would be very important. If you tell people you have to come to work 5 days a week from tomorrow, most of them would agree without uttering a single word. But if you actually ask, what is your opinion? How many times do you actually want to come to work? You would get to know the real people. You would get to know what they are. So listening would be very important element, and I'm sure Bhumika would agree that anything related to these things and listening comes into picture. So that is first thing in when we say 5H, as I was talking about, holistic wellness. Second piece would be human. How are we behaving with somebody else? The example, we have so many examples around that somebody is working from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. and they are getting things done. Do we have a challenge with them? Like, it does happen sometimes that my team has gone to hometown and there's no electricity for 6 7 hours in a day. What are you going to do? How are you going to handle the situation? Are you just telling them come back to Mumbai because there is no electricity and you can't work in daytime? Or any time when they can manage it, you are letting them do? So this human piece is another element, and that's where all the emotions, all that mental connect comes. Now third would be harmony. As we know, when mind and body are not in mind or heart, or they are not in harmony, dissonance happens. Likewise, when people in the team are not in harmony, resignations happen. So this great resignation, harmony is the area which can be looked at, and that would be another important thing for leaders to take into account. And why am I emphasizing more and more on leaders? Because yes, HR will create some policies around things, will be catalyst, but day-to-day interaction, it has to be done by a manager. No matter how good HR can create a framework, but execution is to be done by leaders. So leaders play a very important role in anything that we are talking about, because it is all human. Then we have high-tech experience, which is employee experience piece. We know we have been talking about it for years, but now it's about high tech. Say for example, my industry, we are looking at fintechs now. So there are lot many tools, that high tech tools that fintechs have, which traditional banks or NBFCs don't have. So here there are two sides to it. One is customer side also, because if I don't give high tech tools to my team, they would not be able to support the customer. And second thing would be that if they do not have it, the high-tech experience, because technology is the only way to reach them, that also would be a problem. So this high-tech experience would be the fourth H that I would like to bring about here. And finally, happiness. How can you bring in that fifth H is the most important piece. And what you have to do is, again, going back to listening, understanding their challenges, and whatever is possible within the framework. I mean, it would be very impractical to say that any situation in the organization is happening and where you need people, and you can at the same time allow them not to do work or whatever the situation demands on the personal end also. There has to be a balance because organization also need money, they need to earn, and at the same time employee requirements also need to be taken care of. So this 5H would be my mantra when we talk about coming back, or we talk about remaining like this for some more time, whichever way we want to put it.
That's a super great learning, Gauri, and I think your mantra, a lot of people are going to adopt from today onwards, and they'll pick it up from there, including me. So that's something that we will ponder about a little more. I would want something that Gauri mentioned about employers' responsibility in social interaction. Bhoomika, she was speaking about how employers have to look at their role, right? So just extending that question, and I'm going to ask you that, do employers have any role here in social interaction?
Right. I think, yes, they do, because, that is something that was lacking for quite some time, because of the pandemic, since everybody were working from home, that social interaction was lost at some point, right? I think so now the employers, they really have to come up with, ways in which they can ignite these kind of social interactions at workplace. And like Gauri spoke about how it is the leader's responsibility, I think even this, is an aspect where the leaders have to take up, and they'll have to see how they can implement at their team levels, right? So how can they come together and through various different platforms, how can they encourage people to interact these days, right? Like, for example, like EAP program, employee assistance program, or having group sessions with them, having listening circles, right? Listening empathetic circles, or just, check-ins, one-on-one check-ins, very genuine check-ins, not just about, hey, how are you doing? Go beyond that, beyond how are you, right? So can I really spend some time with you? Can I understand what you're going through, right? It will not happen if you don't talk about your own problems, right? Like, for example, if I want to learn about Gauri's problems, I'd probably talk about mine first and make her feel a little more, open to talking about her problems, right? Because I'm coming from a manager's standpoint, right? I'm coming from a person who is more resilient, who's asked to be more resilient, who's asked to be more proactive. And if I myself am going through a lot of problems, and if I share that with somebody in my team, I'm sure they're also going to, talk about their problems, right? So I think, I would look at this in a very different way. So like how we have contracts, how we have proposals and plans for every single thing that we do, right? When it comes to our, profiles, whatever we do, our organization requests us, we always have contracts. Why don't we develop something like an emotional contract at workplace? Why don't we come together and sign this contract, and which gives us a clear-cut indication of, policies about flexibility, policies about feedback mechanism, policies about check-ins, policies about how to become more humanitarian, like how she spoke about human, right? So can we have an emotional contract at an organizational level, right, where we honestly give importance to the emotional health of an employee? I think this is where we have to brainstorm as an organization and develop these kind of frameworks and ensure that it happens, right?
That's a great insight. Gauri, what do you think about having emotional contract?
Yeah, that's
the organization. I think it's quite a cracker one, Bhoomika.
Yeah,
I really
actually,
like.
I'm really I want to share this. We have implemented this with one organization, and it's really working well. We have a proper framework, which is the emotional contract. There is a way to use it, and which has a lot of frameworks, which has simple processes that one can implement. Where it's more of the manager's role and also the HR's role. And we have seen how people are becoming becoming more interactive, more open, right, and more expressive more than anything, right? So I think, yeah, we can definitely see how organizations. So my way, what I'm trying to say is, it's all about creativity. I think now is the time where we have to wear our creative hats and think about how can we come together as an organization to solve this problem, right?
Yeah, I think that's quite a cracker, Bhumika, and I will work with you personally to create those emotional contracts, starting from KelpHR, and see how we go about it. So coming back to Gauri, because I would really want Gauri to help us as an HR leader, that is there any plan for transition from we were pushed into pandemic, we were pushed into work from home situation. Suddenly one day we got a thing saying that from tomorrow you're going to work from home, right? So, but I'm sure we can transition back very gently and not push people into coming back to full-time work, okay, or hybrid work, or work from anywhere policy, telecommuting policy. There's so many policies which are coming up, right? So I'm sure there is a lot of thinking around going on. So any inputs from your side as an HR leader which you would have implemented, or which you're planning to implement, or which you think is a best practice, so that you can bring about here?
Yeah, another great one, Smita. And I really love that emotional contract, Bhumika. Thanks for bringing it. Yes, I think a lot of planning is required, because what happened when a pandemic hit, we do not want people to go through all that turmoil again. That was a requirement. It was mandatory to do it. There was no other option. But today it is not the case. And no manager, no HR, no CXO can say that people cannot operate from home. It has been close to 2 years now. So you cannot say that now suddenly today onwards you have to come to office 5 days a week, because things are not happening, because productivity is going low. That is not done. It cannot happen. That would totally be illogical. So planning will involve lot many things. Again, it will start from which place you are coming from. It would be your industry first. It would be your own organization, and I would go till the each employee level also, because everyone is going through a different kind of challenge. Some want to be in office. There is an infrastructure problem at home. Women might want to come back because of various reasons. We have been reading about it, and same goes for different men also, and other genders as well. So everyone is having a different and unique situation. So solution also, or plan also, will have to be around that. Planning, yes, definitely. But how would you plan? Are you going to look for uniformity across? No, that is not going to work. But you may have a broad policy stating that this is what we are planning, say 50 from now till 31st of March, say once a week. Then you start with 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and gradually you move forward. And within that also you check with employees, are they finding it good to be back? And on top of that, be ready for a drop in productivity, a slight drop in productivity, because people will not get accustomed to taking that train, spending 3.5 hours the way I used to do immediately. Because once traffic is back, and it is almost back, I'm seeing it from 2 weeks now, I'm again go back to spending 3.5 hours on the road. Now, with 3.5 hours and the flexibility that work from home comes, I would always be tilted towards the flexibility of work from home. So when things start, you do not expect people to touch office at 9 o'clock and be there till forever, and have that time calculated, that time machine. And in the process, be ready for a leg where productivity might go down. Habits formation takes time. So this is another way, or another leg of habit formation. So yes, if I have to summarize it, create a plan, but go till in the last employee in the team level, so that you have understanding about each and everyone's situation. Be ready to create a broad guideline, but do not stick to it 100%. Be ready for a small drop in productivity as well, as we change our habits, and who knows what lies ahead in terms of the virus. So we can plan everything, and ultimately we do not have the answers. So this is what I would suggest, and this is how we are planning, and things are working well for us so far.
So you spoke something which triggered the definition of equity, Gauri. Creating equitable workplaces. We all say equality. Everybody come between Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. That's equality. But can everybody come? Okay, so that's the sensitivity you're trying to drive. And really, as an HR leader, I think that comes first. And you wearing a hat of the DEI person, diversity, equity, inclusion, I think that sensitivity automatically comes in, right? I hope everybody is thinking from that hat and not only, being able to lose a little bit of productivity because humane angle is important is also such a wonderful thought. I hope and pray that we are all thinking on those lines, because first we have to care for humans. I think that's the most important aspect. So thank you for bringing in that aspect. And Gauri, I have a further question to you. Do you think women will suffer for returning back?
Yeah, so here also two angles, Smita, like we read about it in beginning and we experienced it also. Many friends of mine, they had to quit work because it was not possible to manage home, manage kids, those especially who have young kids, and work also. And at the same time, when you are on the call and you are cooking also, or you are doing something, your kid comes in, like we were talking, and your son came in, or your niece came in. So that is not taken very positively by the workplace, though the organizations and leaders need to understand that they have rented a place in homes now. Actually, it's home which has become a workplace currently, and that was not done by choice by people. They were forced to do it, both for organizations and employees, both sides of it. So now when it comes to women, yes, there were challenges. The double shift converted to double shift. And now when it comes to going back, again, there is same challenge because there is dependency at home also. So women are there when they are at home, they have to do household work also. They have to manage office. I have seen situations where women have come forward and said that please allow us to come to work because we would not be able to be productive when we are out. I have seen situations where husband and wife are working from home, but mother-in-law is not, or mother is not saying anything to the man of the house. But when the woman is working, it's like she is home, she can do anything during the day. So these biases, and especially unconscious biases, are always there, and to fight it out, women, it's better for some women to be back, depending how the situation is. However, what you said, will women suffer? Yes, there are some signals already, because if people are called back 5 days a week, 6 days a week, then those women who had started working with young kids, they will have to go back to home. I have many friends who took a break in 2020, 2021, and then they took up some role because it was work from home. And now when world is, I think it's going back to the old normal. If it really goes there, then women will be at disadvantage. So both sides of the coin here, because the situation is such unique, so unique that there is no, again, one thing fitting for everyone. There is no such solution. But overall, I think it was better for women when they were operating from home, because somehow they were juggling, they were doing double shift, but they were able to make a mark for themselves. They were able to do it. Because I have had 2 breaks in my career, and I know how difficult it is to go back. Both times it has been a challenge for me. So when they had this opportunity, if it is taken away from them, there will be disadvantages. This is what my view is.
So,
Smita, I also want to jump in here. I also want to add one or two pointers here. Like how Gauri said that, there are a lot of things that have changed since the pandemic. The first and foremost is, especially for working mothers, right? The children are now taking online classes. Somebody has to be there to take care of them. Now, right? Even if you look at the house help, now the house help is also if there are lockdowns or repeated lockdowns that we have seen, we don't get house help. So the dynamics in the house is constantly changing. And I've also interacted with quite a few of them, women who've told me that back at workplace, I was bullied, I was discriminated against, I was abused. It was not a sexual abuse, but I was abused because of position, women that I held, etc., etc. Now that I work from home, those constant thoughts are not there anymore. So it's giving me a little more safer environment for me to actually work, right? So I mean, yes, we can say that these are individualistic or unique cases for some women, but we should also consider this at some point. And I think women will truly face difficulties once everything becomes physical work for them, right? So I think it's about safety also. It's also about the normal that they have created for themselves. They've created a system that is working. So I think there will be difficulties going forward.
All right. Then Bhoomika, then extended question to you. What do you think organizations should do? While I understand, childcare is a responsibility, which from mental and emotional perspective, is there anything organizations can do? Because while there will be a toll in managing work-life balance and people supporting crash, house help, that's a very different ballgame. But today what we are discussing is most importantly on mental health. So from organizations' perspective, is there anything that we can do to support?
Yes. Right. Thank you, Smita, for this question. I think it's a very important question. I'm sure everybody, everybody have discussed at some point, right? How can we really make our organizations more humanitarian? So yes, definitely, there are different ways in which organizations can implement proactive measures. So firstly, I feel it is to help employees recognize mental health concerns, right? So how can we do that? Right? So how can we help employees recognize if they're going through something, right? I think these sensitization programs and awareness sessions wherein you introduce experts who can help you recognize what is mental health distress, right? So maybe a person who is going through depression, which is chronic in nature, they might not be aware of it because sometimes it comes and goes over time. So they might not be completely aware of what is happening to them. Some people might feel that, why I'm not able to focus is because of my family, but they might not know it is something else, right? So I think it's important first we help employees recognize what is mental health distress. So training sessions, counseling sessions with people, I think all of these things will really help them understand and identify what they are going through. Right? That is the first aspect. And the second aspect is how can they implement policies, or how can they really come together to address these mental health concerns? Like how Gauri spoke about spiritual interactions, like meditation sessions, yoga classes, all of these things play a very vital role because you're still bringing people together as a community, as a collective to address something everybody are going through. Right? So they've been sitting for one place for long periods of time while they were working from home. Now, can you give them something which, involves a little more movement, right? So these kind of sessions and workshops will really help people identify what they're going through and also mitigate it to a certain extent, right? So that is where you're encouraging them to handle by themselves. But if they're not able to handle by themselves, what are you offering them? Right? So I think one-on-one counseling sessions are very crucial at this point, at organizations, because one, it will increase productivity. Two, it will help them organize their thoughts and their life. They'll help them compartmentalize, if not anything else. Right? I think counseling is very crucial. I think every company should identify this and start providing holistic counseling to their employees. Right? And then also, these small group sessions, like I've also seen a lot of companies implementing something called as buddy cultures, right? So they come together, they address problems. They also have posters and mailers and videos that are constantly sent to them saying that we care, we listen to you, and we are coming on and doing these kind of programs for you. Right? And also a mechanism for collecting feedback. Like, for example, I'm an employee, I have access to all of these programs. Can I give feedback? Because there's something that I also need that is not being addressed, and I need that very badly. So is there a feedback mechanism for employers to think about? So I think these are some of the ways in which we can handle. And also we have at the policy level, I think we've already discussed how can we come with new policies, right? So if we implement this, right? I think there will be a way in which the employees will feel that, yes, I think I am in a workplace which listens to my problems and encourages me to express it, and also helps me to mitigate it by offering the right kind of resources.
So Smita, Sundararajan wants to take a shot at that. He's saying, can I answer this question of yours, Smita?
Sure, Sundar.
Yeah. This question, what you asked, is very interesting, and that's the real organization support. That's why I wanted to answer to, in addition to what our friend said here. I did a detailed study on this. I sent it to 176 companies, about 76 reply I got from CEOs, from HR heads, India and global. And my article was, it appeared in one of the leading journal in UK, and on post-pandemic managerial strategic actions. And World Health Organization also has picked up this article from this leading article, and they have a leading journal, and they put it in the WHO site. I found in my study 4 different managerial actions need to be done. Number 1, it did come from one of the speakers, leadership change. The top leaders' paradigm has to change. They can't wear the old hat. The new hat is hybrid work model. And they need to be flexible. They need to take the views from the managers and the HR. And the leaders have to change first on managing strategic management of the organization, of all functions. Because previously they saw 100% eyeball contact. Now they are going to see anywhere ranging from 40 to 70%. And remaining will be on work from home. Some will be on hybrid model. Somebody will be working permanently from home, and they'll come only once a month for once a week for integration. So leadership has to change. Secondly, they have to educate managers how to manage hybrid model. Everybody know the art of managing face-to-face and direct. The communication architecture has completely changed. The communication architecture, which was face-to-face, is virtual and hybrid model also. So there has to be high communication architecture to improve employee engagement initiatives, care for people and all like that. Like one of our presenter did say, the agony of the women, many of them are very happy to come back to work because the stretch to work timings will get timed now. And today they need to take care of the parents. One of them have been lost in Corona. They become isolated. Children have grown. And some of the, I know one particular case when a lady was told to come for work from last Monday. She has been in that company for 9 years. And the chief executive and others have told, either you join or put on your papers. And she cannot come back because of she's having a baby of 4 months. She says, give me at least month end. I'll let me organize the crash, because crash have not opened. They say you come or you drop your paper. Not one. If you see Times of India papers, 4 or 5 executives have told. So the brutality of the management has to be with human face. That will be changed. So managers have to be trained. Managers must know how to have control on project schedule with those who are working from home. Very, very important. And therefore the managers changing, managers leadership styles have to change, and strategic management, they need to be taught the new style of management. The old school, the old thought will not work. Okay. Then they also need to have control mechanism, and also the MIS have to change to monitor the progression of work. The productivity is a must. Productivity cannot be compromised. Where I do in my consulting, I tell the people, if company does not survive, you and I don't survive. So let's make the company survive. While making the company survive, what are the needs of the new situation? Let us think among ourselves and find out about it by talking to them. So involvement. In that way, I like what Bhoomika said, the psychological contract will get built up. So we have to work in a style where the psychological contract is built up with hybrid work model, because somebody where manager says you can work on hybrid work model, 3 days you work from home. The people have been told to come for 4 days in a, what do you call it, to the organization, as again 3 days of somebody else. she will say, why that ill treatment to me? So this has to be just based on the work needs, and they need to be explained. So the leadership have to be told, otherwise they will pass it on to HR. Now, third one, first one is leadership, second one is managerial training. Third one, HR also has to wear a new cap. They cannot work on the old style. Very critically, the compensation pattern will have to change. Those who work from home, because they don't have conveyance, they may have to drop conveyance. Those who work on hybrid model, they may have to incentivize it, and they have to do according to the hybrid model. Compensation pattern also has to be bit hybrid. So this policy change have to be done to create that bridge to develop a hybrid model. And HR has to develop in job description, their KRA, how to monitor from people working from home. Because that's going to be a very big issue when you do a performance appraisal in the coming year. So they need to change the formula. They need to give some weightages and all like that. They need to change that also. So the performance appraisal model also has to change. And very, very importantly also, the facilitation of the work model, hybrid work model. HR has to develop. They have to develop a policy. They have to explain the policy. They have to be, and the policy has to be customized. One cannot copy from one another. A product development company, very different from service-oriented companies, very different in a manufacturing company, very different from a sales-oriented company. So you have to take a general, which will be 50 to 60% common, and 40% has to be customized to the local business nature of work. That's very, very important. And the employee engagement model also has to change. You need to have, many people should not feel, since I'm working from home, I've been taken for granted. But I'm slogging a lot. I work for 12 hours. I start my morning 9 and I work up to evening 9. And because that is the style of working from home, where you don't end, and people are connected by media but not connected by mind. So there are a lot of people are fed up. So this is the one factor. The last part of the story is leadership is done. Then I told about managers. Third, I told about HR. The last one is the training and development model has to completely be changed now. The virtual model will remain, where virtual model they will learn on their own, and they will have to appear few tests, and they have to score minimum of 80 to 85%. Otherwise, when I do virtual training, I see quite a lot of people pulling out, going in. It's like a tamasha. So there have to be seriousness. Virtual model has to be self-certification. Then there are certain training which can't be done in virtual model. They need to come physically. So they need to do that. That's one way of collaborating. In fact, yesterday I was interestingly asking few children here who went to school day for yesterday and yesterday. You know what they told me? I was enjoying it. They said when the school bus came and they landed in the school, everybody jumped the door, falling on one another and hugging on each other. And they did not mind having fallen, and they enjoyed that fall also. That means they were so much waiting for human connect. And workplace has connected, gave human connection phenomenally for all of us. We know about it. So that same connection will take place. Unfortunately, the new people in the organization will be anywhere from 30 to 50% in all organizations now, especially in IT. So how are they going to bridge this? How are they going to develop this cultural gap? And how are they going to address this? How are they going to develop psychological contract for the teamwork? So that's a new challenge for the training and development. They need to work on it. And they need to reinvent the training need identification and training need analysis. They cannot follow the old model. They have to rework, and they have to develop a recipe of success for the new model. These are the one very, very important. And self-learning, I've already emphasized. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Mr. Sundar, for your insights. I think you've given us a lot of important pointers there, about how can we come together. It's all everybody's responsibility, like how you put it, employer, leader, HR personnel, employees coming together and making it work. right? So thank you so much for that. And if you can just give me a little bit more time, I can just talk about another, another interesting thing that we have done that has worked. So we have developed something called as accountability partners at workplaces. You have big teams. You have teams of say 50, 100 and all of that. It's very difficult to take accountability for one another, right? So having one accountability partner will really help. For example, if I have another accountability partner, I have a lot of things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. I might fall sick. I might have to go take my parents for examination. I have bank work. I have so many things that have been following up and happening for quite some time. If having an accountability partner associated to me, they can fill in for me once in a while. Just one person, right? As opposed to a lot of people, right? Even a leader or a manager will be caught up with a lot of things. They might not be able to take responsibility or accountability for everybody, but assigning one co-worker or a colleague who is in your team, so you become dependent on each other and just the both of you and not the entire team. I'm talking about when it comes to emotional support or support system in general, right? Suppose I something happens to me. I've seen this in workplaces during the second wave. When they've lost their loved ones, they take a lot of time to come back and resume work. So during that time, the accountability partner can step in and relay any information between the manager and the person. So this person has to deal only with the accountability partner and not the entire organization, right? So these kind of systems will really help build that level of trust within the organizations. And it also runs on empathy on a large scale.
Thank you, Bhoomika. Thank you, Sundar. There was great insight, and I'm very mindful of the timing. Gauri, Bhoomika, anything as a closing comment from the two of you? Before we close, I also want to invite Aparna here, who has collected some insights from the real folks. So Gauri, first I come to you for any closing comments. Bhoomika?
Yeah. Thanks, Smita. Yes, very interesting webinar, and 60 minutes spent by, we didn't even come to know. The last thing that I would like to say would again be 3H, which is head, heart, and hand. So as a manager, as organization, as HR, we have to create an environment where we are first connecting with the brain, where the visioning is coming, and we have to tell people this is what we are doing, this is what the purpose is. And once that vision is clear, we connect at the heart level, which is second way to connect with people. Now it's there, the visioning is there, but how are you bringing in those emotions to get things done? And once that is then hand will help to do everything. So connect at three levels, all three levels, and things would be sorted, because change is name of the game, and adaptability or possibilitarian mindset is the only way out.
I really like, I think this is a word coined by you, Gauri.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gauri. And I would like to just add that I think if there is anything the pandemic has taught us, it's about collective action. It's about coming together. I think everybody are in this together, right? There is no one solution, but the solution has to be custom to every single person, right? Everyone are unique and different. Their experiences are different. So I think it's important that we come together and really understand the importance of mental health. I also say that if the pandemic has done anything, it has changed the posturing of mental health in our community, in our society. Today, people are really paying attention to mental health. They're really talking about it. Nowadays, the bias or the stereotype of reaching out to a therapist is slowly reducing. I think, we have really understood the importance of mental health, and we have to come together as a collective to make our workplaces more holistic in terms of accepting and approaching these services, right? So that's all I would like to say. Thanks a lot for calling me for this panel and encouraging such a important conversation, Smita, as always.
So it has been great learning for me too. but wait, the learning is not yet over, because you have to hear from the real people. Of course, we couldn't get all the real people to talk, but Aparna has collected the input. So please hear her out.
So we reached out to, just before, purposely, specifically for this webinar, we reached out to couples, all senior executives, managers, some head of departments. So they're all working couples. So we got some very interesting insights. One of the things that came up as a concern is that, very interestingly, that how are you going to ensure that there is disclosure? Okay, one of the head of department, one of the respondents actually said in their organization, the head of department had COVID, and he had come in and did not tell his team members. So through him, 9 of the team members got infected, and so they the company had to take action, obviously, because this is neglect. And he knew that, and in spite of it, he came, and this was not even a little, probably less intensive infection this time, little earlier time period as well. So they apparently asked that person to leave, and he was head of the department, and they had to ask him to leave. So one question that came up was disclosure. What a company is going to do, and how responsible our employees are going to be in terms of disclosing their current situation. It's like going to school, and school says, if you have cold and fever, please don't send the children. It's like that. So some very interesting viewpoints. So one thing that came up is the mind-numbing traffic, the unproductive time spent traveling to and fro is something that many of them were, talking about. And I now recall what Gauri was saying, 3.5 hours of travel. So many of them are worried about that. And few women said work hours will have a limit now. The lines are blurred, but the fear is management might perceive different productivity. This is against, in a different way Gauri touched. But this also, they felt it might stabilize over time. So very interesting. A few women actually said, I'm happy going back as I can revamp my wardrobe and start looking decent again. Right now, it's only pajamas and zombie condition. So for that, a few women said that, apart from the lines getting blurred, and managers were saying freshers are denying offers if there is no work from home. And a popular impression that people might change if they are forced to come back to office, because it is an employee's market, not an employer's market, is what many of them said. And more than ever, there will be a need to ensure health, safety, and well-being. Definitely, that is everybody is talking about. Like Bhoomika just pointed out, there is enhanced awareness about the need for mental health. And so the final point that came up was this one. There was a worry about the disclosure. So these are some. There was a quick pilot survey we did about with couples, and both working with they have to leave children back. All those typical issues are all there. But these are some of the disclosures. Panel members, would you have any quick points on that, Gauri, Bhoomika?
Yeah, very practical, and I can relate to so many of those at personal level as well. And thank you for bringing those insights, Aparna, because I would now be even more mindful when we create a policy, we create a framework. Even these pointers are to be considered. Like Smita said, real people, because whatever we are listening from people directly is most important. Again, customization, because what my organization is thinking, the other organization may not be thinking same way. So thanks for bringing this.
So, and interestingly, they're all middle management. So I would people managers and above. So my expectation, is that they also have thought about the other side. They are the employers as well. So they're not just so they are mindful of what the company has to have in mind as well. So that is why we picked up the most relevant ones and shared.
Yeah, and very important aspect here as well, because as a leader, we all say that they have the responsibility, the managers have the responsibility, but at the end of the day, they are human too. And who's taking care of them Even that
Absolutely.
is important. So these insights, like you just pointed that these are from middle managers or above. So for them also, these are the concerns while they sit
Yeah.
on the other side of the table and they command a decree which comes from above. But even for them, these things are applicable. So like Smita said, all of us are in the same boat, or I don't know, Bhoomika said. So that is the most important thing, because we have to look for everyone. It's like shared humanity which is which is facing this challenge. Very interesting, Aparna. Thank you once again.
There's one question, Bhumika, I think it is for you. Depression levels are expected to come down at campus working due to human interaction, connects exchanges that we are live and natural. Interpersonal exchanges will improve. Your views?
Yes, thank you so much for that statement. I think you've already summed it up. It will definitely happen. It will be, people will still start, they'll start finding purpose and value in other people's interactions. I mean, I also do that. Everybody does that. The more we interact, the more we think, and the more we find purpose for whatever that we are trying to do, right? It could be any campus. Let's also look at for example, educational institutions, how important it is social interactions there, and how can we instigate our minds if we're not having healthy conversations with people, or even initiating dialogues, right? So it's all about dialogues. If I'm just sitting and working from home constantly, I'm missing out a very important thing, which is dialogues. And these also build our neural pathways, right? How we behave, everything is connected to our social interaction. So I think definitely when we start working with people in a physical space, it is going to enhance interpersonal skills. It is definitely going to give us a lot more purpose in our presence with other people. So I think yes, that is going to happen, and I think we have to look forward to that as any educational institutions or companies or organizations working with people. We have to look forward for that. And when everybody comes now together, we need to create a plan, right? They're all coming now. If employees are coming to work, the children are coming to work, they're coming with a lot of hope and excitement, right? And we need to fuel them by giving them these kind of programs and these kind of plans where they can actually utilize their potential to the fullest, right? So I think we have to give them that space as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's what it is. We have to create an ecosystem for people who are returning after 2 years. They're coming in with a lot of anticipation. They really want to make it happen. How do we enhance that experience is something that we'll be looking at. It is give and take. Little they will give, little we will give. It's give and take. So it has to be mutual, right? So thank you very much. I think this conversation just does not end. It's a beginning. So we will continue this conversation. We just kind of scraped at the top. There is a lot of depth that we need to go in. Maybe over a period of time, we will keep doing these conversations again and again and again, and then maybe we'll find a solution for it. Is there a right or wrong answer? We do not know. But listening to a lot of perspectives help us sharpen our thought process as HR leaders, as psychologists, as a CEO of the company. We are all thinking that we should create a cordial work environment, and this is how we put our brains together and come with it. So thank you very much for your time, all of you. Bhoomika, Gauri, you were great panel members. I really enjoyed every conversation and learning. Hope we continue doing this all the time.
Thank you, Smita. It was wonderful.
Thank
you. Thank you so much, Smita, and thanks everybody for taking time on a weekday. All right, almost entering weekend. So thanks everybody for joining in, and wish you all a happy weekend. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you, for your time.